Welcome everybody to this episode where we dive into our owl medicine. We call upon the owl spirit to come and help us today with our painting as well as our lives. So as we get into this owl energy, I'm just going to light a beautiful flame of hope as we call upon the beautiful energies of the owl to help us see in the dark and to bring some light into our unconsciousness, our unconscious mind, that dark side of us that we don't always get to know so well. We tend to work very hard on our external personalities, our public personalities, but we don't always work so hard on our inner, being, that true part of ourselves that is unknown to even us. And the only way that we can get to know our dark side or our subconscious mind is to ask ourselves questions and to reflect upon our behaviors, our choices, our attitudes, and our general sort of perception and biases that we have in life. Because these things, unfortunately, run on autopilot. So the only way we can get to know that is through sort of personal growth and exploration. And I'm hoping that this owl painting video session will do exactly that. Right. So as we get into today's exercise, I want you to make sure that you're printing out your reference material, because then we work from the same point of perspective and you will have the same sort of basis that I'm going to be referring to the whole time. Okay, so where can you get the reference material? There's a link in this video that you can use that will take you to my LinkedIn or Linktree. And on the Linktree, you will see this little owl face. I think it's right at the top. You just click on that and the image will come up, and then you can either screenshot it or download it, and then you can print it out for yourself. And I would also recommend that you print out a black and white version of our reference material, because we will definitely be using that a little bit later. Okay, so as we're going to be diving into our owl spirit, I'll be sharing with you guys. So what have I done now is I have prepared just a little bit of a page. So I will add this to the requirement list. This is just acrylic paper. Let me just close this little book and show you guys. So you can use any paper, but this is specifically an acrylic artist pad. It's just paper, canvas textured paper that helps you to paint on it. So I like to do sort of my exercises on paper like this so that I don't waste my canvas. Okay. So then what I want you to do is just tape off half of your page, paint one half of your page with your black gesso, leave the other half white, because we're going to do some color swatches that we will be needing for our painting. And then what I've also done is I've painted a whole page of this black gesso, because we have to practice our brush marks that we will be needing in our painting. Okie dokie. Right, so let's get back into this exercise. So what I've dispensed here on my dry palette, we'll switch over to the wet palette when we get into the painting. For now, I just wanted it to be very clear. So I've got here cad yellow medium, I've got cad orange medium, I've got fern green or yellow green, magenta, turquoise, titanium white, sap green, ultraviolet or just violet, and I've got here cobalt blue. There is another color I'm adding to our list, and that is Payne's gray, and then I have here lamp black. Now the reason why I want to add Payne's gray, it is going to really help us with our shadows, because my lamp black is quite opaque. So Payne's Grey is a transparent or translucent acrylic color which will help me to create incredible depth but with translucency, so that I don't lose the depth that I have or the color that I have in the background. It is translucent, so it's going to help me create a lot of depth. So that is definitely going to help you a lot. So do add Payne's Grey to that list of ours. Okie dokie. So what we want to do is just basically get into some of our color that we have here. And I've just got my number 6 filbert here. You can see it's not an enormous brush. And I'm just going to activate my brush with some clean water to my left. And I've always got a little bit of a kitchen towel ready for me here. So what I want to do is I want to show you guys just quickly as we go through this color sample exercise is the difference between the black background and the white background. So I'm going to start here by loading this cadmium yellow medium, and I'm just going to make a nice little mark. It's just a color swatch, really, and I want you to see the difference in what the background makes to the color. Sorry, there's a little bit too much water in my brush there. Okie dokie. So we're gonna have to rinse out with every little sample that we're making. So we just want to familiarize ourselves with our paint colors and how it's going to be looking on the black canvas. These are orange. Listen, this isn't rocket science. We're not painting the painting yet, but we're familiarizing ourselves with how does this feel. You will feel a difference in the texture of the black gesso, and it really is nice and chalky, and it will affect the color in the end of our painting as well. Right, let's get into this fern green. I'm going to make that one there. And now you can also see that my fern green has a nice opacity. It looks a lot like the yellow, but it's definitely got a little bit of a green added to it. And this just gets us into our painting because I think sometimes there's some angst or anxiety when we start a new project and we want to get into it because we're excited, but it's new materials or it's a new background for you to work on. You might be only used to breaking in a white canvas, but now we have to break in a black canvas as well. And the texture is slightly different to that of a white canvas or a white piece of paper. So I think it's good here just to get used to the paint and what it will look like on the different backgrounds. Now here you can see the turquoise that I've got from Lucas Scroll has a beautiful opacity to it. It really covers that black canvas really well. Okay, let's get into some of our sap green. And some of my colors, like this sap green, really is a student grade acrylic paint. It's really not a professional paint. And you can see that with the transparency of the paint. Student grade paints have a lot of fillers in them, and that is what sort of is where they save some money. So there's less pigment, more fillers, more medium, shall I say. So we have some professional paint here and some student grade. So I'm just going to continue to do these swatches, and while I'm doing that, I would like to just share with you guys a little bit about myself, where I am right now in my artist journey as a coach, and just a little bit more from my personal life so that you guys can get to know me a little bit better. You might be new to my Patreon. If you're new to my Patreon, Absolutely welcome. I would just like to, take this opportunity to say a warm welcome to all of my patrons, and I'm so grateful for your support and for your love and for your participation in my offerings. It really, really means a lot to me. And I am a hairstylist by trade. I've been doing hair for the last 30 years of my career, and I think I've always wanted to be an artist all my life, but somehow those doors to the traditional sort of route of going into art didn't open for me, and I was taken on another journey, um, which landed me up in hairdressing, and but this call to artistry has always been there. So it got to a stage, I think about 8 years ago, where I could no longer ignore this call. And I found Whitney Freya and I did her Creatively Fit course, and it changed my life because it really brought all of the elements together for me that I needed to give myself permission to begin the journey of teaching myself about art and really enjoy getting into it. So, for every patron that supports my page, I'm so grateful for that, because that at this stage is supplementary income to my life. I am currently 52 years of age. So that means, I have some body challenges that I would like to share with you guys. I was born with club feet, and what that means is my feet were a little bit disformed by, when I was born. But luckily, we had good surgeons and they corrected my feet. So I could pretty much walk fairly normally throughout my life, but I was limited as to what I could do as far as physical, exercises or that kind of thing. So now that I've been standing as a hairstylist for the last 30 years behind the chair, making people beautiful, it's come to a point where it's starting to become taxing on my body. And I'm also thinking of retirement in the sense of what will I do when I turn 65 or even older. I won't be able to necessarily keep the pace that I'm currently keeping in my career as a hairstylist. So I have to look at how can I supplement my income and how I can sort of step over into a new career midway here in my 60s somewhere. So I think I've got about, what shall we call it, like 10 years left of a working career as a hairstylist. So I'm really hoping to step into my coaching as a creative coach, as an artist for the remainder of my life. So you supporting my Patreon channel is an incredible support financially for me, and it sort of just confirms that hope and the dream and the desire, as well as the intention as a creatively fit coach, to create a platform and to share my knowledge and experience with you guys, and to really focus on this amazing art of painting something that is beautiful, but at the same time to reflect on the symbology and to connect with that personal resilience that is found within all of us. This is a call to recognize how far you've already come in your journey, and it gives us a hope for the future. It gives us something to anchor our intention moving forward. And the process helps us to remain present, grounded, and in the present moment, in the now. That is really important. So this is my intention. So thank you to everyone that is joining my Patreon. I really hope that you will find this course useful, and future courses that I'm planning to make available for you guys. Right. So now as these paints are drying, you can see the difference between the colors on the black background as well as on the white background. Some of the colors are nice and popping on the white, but there's a different energy and a vibe and a vibration to them on the black background. Here you can see the difference between the opaque black and the Payne's Grey. So definitely add a little bit of Payne's Grey to your shopping list if you can, because going forward and working in those shadows, this will really be very helpful. So I think once we've swatched our colors that we will be using in our painting and we sort of get familiar with what they look like on the canvas, then it sort of preps us to prepare us for going to the canvas and painting our owl. Okay, so go ahead, get out your paints and do a bit of a swatch for yourself. If you want to go ahead and mix a little bit more of the actual colors that's on your reference material, do try that. I think that is a nice sort of game to play. So let's look at some of those. Looking, for example, at a deeper magenta, like these really deep colors. It's almost a brick red kind of color. So how would we do that when we get to that painting part is maybe to take a little bit of the magenta, load your brush with a bit of magenta. I'm also going to add a little bit of the orange to it. Let's mix it here on the side. So that gives us that warmth of that darker color. And then I will use a little bit of the violet to cool it down, to make it darker, but the colors are still supportive of each other, so it's not neutralizing it too much. Let's look there. That's pretty close. We can in fact add a little bit of black. That's maybe too much, but remember, black is very potent. I'm going to add a bit of magenta back into that. That feels good. Right, and there we have this beautiful dark wine red kind of color that we will need. So this is what I mean with just playing a little bit with your colors that we've elected. And as we get into the painting, I will show you exactly how I make those mixes so that you can also achieve the same color. So I think that's really a helpful exercise just to understand the colors that we've selected and how they're going to support us going forward in painting our owl. Right. So in our next little segment, what I want you to do is I want you to have a page ready with your black gesso already dry, and we're going to practice our brush marks and we're going to see which brush we're going to need for what, because there's a very particular petal-like shape here to these kind of feathers. These feathers are long and wispy, and then we have these diamond-shaped feathers over here. So we're going to be looking at how to make these brush marks, because once we get into our painting, remember we're going to do this like an underpainting with titanium white on the black, just to place our feathers on our shapes, and then we're going to be playing with color after the fact. So I really want you to be familiar with a brush stroke, because it's a one-time kind of thing. It's not a repetitive thing that you're going to do over and over and over. So I think it's a good thing to practice these brush marks first, because that's going to boost your confidence and it's going to help you when we get into the painting to have that confidence to make the brush mark and to move forward, even if it's not perfect. But the practice section of that is going to be really helpful. So I'm going to prepare this page, and then when we get back, we're going to practice all of these brush marks and get familiar with them. Okay, so dispense your colors, try them out on the two different backgrounds, and when we return, we will practice the actual brush mark. I'll see you guys now. Right, everybody, so hopefully you've got your prepared background with your black gesso. I'm going to start off here with my filbert. Now, a filbert brush is basically a flat, round brush. So let me just show you on this white tissue towel. It's got a rounding on the edge and it's very flat. So when I turn it on the side, it's definitely going to make a thinner mark than when I turn it on its side. And I think a filbert like this is really helpful to create these kind of round, sort of petal-like feathers that we see. So I want us to practice that. So let's begin with an activated brush. And by that I mean you've just activated it in water and you've basically squeezed out most of that moisture, but it will just allow your paint to cooperate a little bit better. And then I want you to load your brush on your palette by turning your brush around and almost making a little bit of a landing strip on your palette, and load your brush until we have enough paint and all the way to the belly of the brush. So that is enough paint. So we're going to try and make some of these petal-like sort of shapes. You can immediately hear me concentrating. And just sort of see what that would feel like if they are slightly rounded or angled on the side. And sort of how to place them next to each other. So we want some of the black background to shine through and to still show, because that is going to give you the depth that you need in your feather marks. Okay, so really just practice placing your brush, making those marks, and obviously the smaller feathers you will need a little bit of a smaller brush. You can also just use the toe, the very toe of your brush, to make smaller marks. Especially like going forward. And see what sort of angles you can turn your brush into and what effect that is giving you. And just sort of practice to lay in some of these feather marks behind bigger feathers. Almost stack them like behind the other feathers. That kind of thing. So don't strive for perfection. It really is more, let's just get familiar with the brush and what mark it can give us. Okay, let's look here in my brush kit. Here I've got a really tiny filbert brush. I think this is a number, oh god, I don't even have a number on there. Let's say number 1, I think, or number 4. It's irrelevant, but you can see compared to this first one, it is like twice as small. I'm going to activate that brush. Let's load this little filbert brush as well. And listen, you don't have to have a filbert. If you only have a round brush, you can definitely try these brush marks with that as well. Let's move here and sort of just mimic some of these smaller little feathers that we have around here. And just really get into creating these shapes by using only white paint. And really, you just want to capture the shape and the texture a little bit. If you turn the brush on its side, it will give you a little bit of a finer mark. And if you turn it on its belly, it will give you that fuller sort of feeling. So a flat shape like that, and bring it down, lift your brush. So practice putting it down, and I'm almost twisting my brush a little bit in my finger, down and out, down and out. So it almost creates a little bit of a comma, and then practicing it on its side, down and out. You can see that the line that you can create is a little bit thinner, it's a little bit finer. Let's see how fine a line you can draw with your brush. So you can almost create any shape, or you can create a lot of shapes with your brush. That's fine. So it's all about just practicing these shapes that we see on our reference material, and so that when we go into the actual painting, that there's a little bit more muscle memory and confidence in creating that shape. Okay, so let's see if we can create these wispy kind of feathers that we see here around the beak. So this is where you will use a straight line and maybe just brush out a little bit. Just give a little bit of a flick out so that the end of the feather is a little bit wispy. Really just practice letting go of some of these wisps. And just get into that feeling. It also trains your eye to look at your reference material and just see where, you know, your color is coming from, the brush mark and so forth. So just to practice some of those feelings, let's switch a little bit to a round brush. I've got here a round brush. This is a number, I'm sorry guys, there's no number on here, or I've erased it, it's just come off. But it's that size, okay? So I like to have a variety of brush sizes around, and let's try some of these similar brush marks. I'm just gonna roll it in my white. Let's try some of these diamond shaped marks. Point, down and out. Let's add a bit of water to our paint. Using the toe of the brush, go in and lift. Okay, that one's toe is a little bit less pointy. Let me try one that's a bit more pointy. We familiarize ourselves with our brushes and which brush gives us a very nice, that feels nice. So now placing those feathers in between each other, and building up a stack of them. So I really use the toe of the brush, then the belly of the brush, and then I lift it up. So I think it's a good exercise. Toe, belly, lift. Toe, belly, lift. Toe, belly, lift. So those brush marks is going to really help you to communicate like the shape of these feathers and how they are sort of crossing over each other. I'm going to try some of these marks over here. So it's a toe, belly, and an out flick. Toe, belly, out flick, out flick, out flick. My white paint is finished. Let me dispense a little bit more. We're going to be using quite a bit of white paint. Let me dispense a little bit more. So I'm really just feeling what it would feel like when I'm on my canvas to make these little marks. So you can see I'm placing a lot of emphasis on the toe of the brush and then I flick it out. I think that's nice. Let's try it in the other direction. Toe, belly, and flick. Toe, belly, and flick. Toe, belly, and flick. That's really cool. Okay, let's practice one of these bigger feathers. So let's switch to a bit of a bigger brush. I'm going to go back to my filbert. Let's load the brush. So I'm looking at this feather over here. So it might have two parts. Almost like a leaf. And again, we practice to stack them onto each other or behind each other, whatever the case may be. So it really feels quite icky now. It's going to feel very stark, the black against the white. But it's all going to make sense to you as we get into this painting. Okay, so it really is just an exercise to practice all of these beautiful line works. I see I nearly I nearly put my reference material on fire. Awareness of the flame is now here. Okay. Awesome, you guys. So, back to our brush marks. Really just practice your brush marks and try to create or replicate the shape of each of these feathers to the best of your ability, and just get comfortable with the kind of line work that we will be making. Alright, I'm going to get back into my round brush because I'm also now looking at the eye, and there we will basically create rounded shapes like this. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about learning to use your brush to make the mark that you want it to make. That's going to make your life a little bit easier. It's going to help you to create beautiful line and shape in your painting using your brush instead of overworking it. I think why I'm stressing this is I've realized in my own kind of journey that I've really relied a lot upon, overworking a piece and getting in there and trying to manipulate the paint in multiple layers until, I get the shape that I want. And what that does is, in the end, it can feel like it's overworked and you didn't quite use, the power of your brush in order to create the shape and the line and the direction of the material. So learning almost to draw with your brush is really powerful, because then later it's easy to focus on the color once you've got the actual placement of the shape that you will be painting on your canvas. So working with a white paint like this as well is really powerful, because you are really focusing on the shape and the line and the placement, the proportion, by just using a contrasting color. So it's much easier to see where you are and where you're going than to worry about all of this at the same time. How light, how dark, how thin, how big, or any detail. I really want you to focus more on the shape of each feather and the location of those shapes rather than the detail. So that's another reason why I like to work with the black and white reference, because it really gives us the opportunity to look at the line, shape and form that we are placing on our canvas, and then later we can worry about the color, the hue and the value of that particular feather, and we're going to be glazing over these. So the minute this is dry, it gives you the opportunity to glaze, and let's just quickly get into that just so that you guys have an idea of where I'll be going with this particular painting. We'll be using glazes. And a glaze, again, really is a little bit of water and medium. But I'm just going to show you here with a little bit of my water. I'm using here the cobalt blue. Let's mix a little bit of turquoise into it. And now, when something is dry, you can literally come over it and just glaze the color in there and change the color of the petal, or listen to me, the feather that we will be painting. And that in itself will add a lot of texture, and we can continue to work with that until we have the correct depth and sort of texture and feeling of each of these feathers. So that is where I will be guiding you to go towards. So grab a piece of paper, try out all of these feather shapes. Don't stress out if they don't look exactly like it does on the paper. Promise you that with practice and with a little bit of patience and persistence, you will be able to do the same, and you will be amazed at how quickly this owl will come together once we sort of plotted where each of these feathers are lying. And this is definitely not the only way to paint the owl. This is just a way that I want to show you guys that you could use, and I'll be using this quite a bit going forward in painting all of our spirit animals that want to connect with us. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys are going to do with this exercise. Do share with me. You are welcome to take a photograph of your exercises that you've done. Share it with me on the tribe group on Patreon. You can just upload a photo there. It's really easy. And I'm always monitoring that group, so you guys can just relax and feel free to share with me there. It's only patrons, paying patrons, that are in that group. So it will be people that have access to this class, and let's get to know each other over there. So share a photograph with me. If you struggle or if you get stuck, please feel free to reach out to me there as well. You can message me there. You can even comment on this video if that's easier for you. Either way, feel free to communicate with me. Share with me your feelings and experiences and your thoughts. And if you need any further guidance and assistance, I'm there for you guys. So, yes, let's get into it. Let's exercise our brush marks, get familiar with our brushes and working with the white paint on the black canvas, and how that will sort of take us forward into painting our owl. I'll speak to you guys real soon.